time, if you look at artists, composers, so to give you one example, some of you will have heard the name of Richard Wagner, a famous German composer of operas. And this Richard Wagner, he had read about Buddhism. He had read translation, he had read a famous introduction to Buddhism written in German, and he wanted to compose an opera about the Buddha. And he had already started to make a, how do you call that in English, a sketch how it should develop. We know the story, it was the Buddhist story it was based on, and there are some beginnings. It was called, the prospective title was the Jinnah, the sea, what's the English word? The one who Jinnah conquers, yeah. Conquers is not so, it's of course a word for the Buddha, and it doesn't fit, it fits a king but not the Buddha so well. So the German word is more appropriate, but I don't know how to translate it in English. But so Richard Wagner is one example among many. It's surprising when you take interest in literature of that time. Everywhere you find references to Buddhism, and quite often to the translations by Karl Eugen Neumann. This, and now I finally come back to me, this very much dominated the reception in Germany. And how was that received in the educated public? Societies were founded. Yeah? Societies where Buddhism, and it was always Theravada Buddhism, was studied. So what was my first, my first meeting with Theravada Buddhism in Munich, where I came, where I'm born, and where I lived and studied. In Munich we had a Buddhist Society Munich, BGM, Buddhistische Gesellschaft München. And this was a group of interested people, educated people, who met once a month to discuss Buddhism, to discuss Buddhist scriptures, and based on the Pali texts. So they were, in a way, Pali scholars is too much, but they also looked sometimes at the original text, at the Pali, but mostly discussing it in German, of course. And so this was my first contact with Pali literature, with Theravada Buddhism, and then I read an introduction, a very good introduction into Buddhism, completely based on Theravada, on Pali sources, and learned the words, Tilakkhana, Anatta, Dukkha, and so. So there's my first, meeting with Buddhism in Buddhist sources was through Pali, which was at that time basically the only accessible in only accessible form in the local languages, in German or English. So I owe a lot to these people who took interest. Otherwise, without that, I would not stand here today. No? I had this possibility to learn something, and Pali is still taught at a number of German universities, so it belongs always within Indology, and you can usually choose if you focus on Sanskrit or on Pali studies. Clever people do both because it's useful, and there's a very solid, very solid tradition of Pali studies, of Pali grammar and of the texts in German academia. This is how I came in contact with Buddhism. And this, in a way, this is what brought me here today. And this ends my talk. But I want to, as a conclusion, I want to make a statement and an apology. The statement, I'm very impressed to see, and this is the second time that have been invited, I'm quite surprised, the second time that I've been invited to Pune University, to this Department of Pali and Buddhist Studies. And I don't know much about other Indian universities, but I do know a little bit, and I must say this is one of the best places. Yeah. This Professor Mahesh Deokar, who regrettably cannot be here with us today due to other obligations, he did a really great job. And there were others, I mean, you're sitting there, several people who supported him. I don't think he could have done it alone. You always need people around you to support. And you need not only 3 or 4 people to make something, to create something worthwhile, you need a community. And this is what I see sitting here, an interested community. And I wish to congratulate you and I wish to thank you for your interest, devotion, and readiness to contribute. Readiness to do something which I would say in our present time, and the recent developments are not very encouraging worldwide. Worldwide, in Germany, wherever I look, I find problems, and sometimes very severe problems. So the Ukrainian war is much closer to us geographically than to you. And this is something which makes us very afraid. Trump, I don't say anything about him, it's not necessary. It's in a way a nightmare. And there are similar, the worst case in various European countries, we have similar tendencies. Back from, not to focus so much on democracy, but on other political forms, which in Germany we had, and we know what it leads to. So we don't want to have that ever again. And now, are there any counter agents against these developments? It's very difficult to say. As the Buddha told us, life is anitya and dukkha. So we will not overcome dukkha before we reach, not completely overcome dukkha before we reach nirvana. But interest in Buddhism, the Buddha's teaching, the Buddha's message is one of the most excellent means to counteract such developments. If we take it serious, if we let it influence our personal life. And so I see many people here who take this interest, who let themselves being influenced by this wonderful message, and it is a wonderful message. I think we all agree about that. And so, again, I want to felicitate you, I want to congratulate you, and I wish you all the best for future and the future of Pali studies here in Pune, in Maharashtra, and everywhere in India. And now, my apology. I will have to leave before the end of this event. Why? Family reasons. Tonight, I have to go to Mumbai because tonight one of my sons will arrive to visit me for a week. And had I known this event before, I would have made sure that he arrived one day earlier to take part and participate, and meet all of you and participate in this event. Thank you very much and all the best.
थँक्यू डॉक्टर हार्डमन यांनी जागतिक स्तरावरील पाली भाषेचं महत्त्व आणि पाली भाषेचा इतिहास याविषयीचं मनोगत व्यक्त करत असताना पाली भाषा संशोधन आणि संवर्धनाची या देशामध्ये कशी आवश्यकता आहे आणि सावित्रीबाई फुले पुणे विद्यापीठ त्याकरता विशेष करून प्रयत्न करत आहे ते करत असतानाच पाठोपाठ देवकर यांचा उल्लेख आणि विचारपीठावरचे स्थानपन्न असणारे आमदार गौतम साबुतस्वार, दीपाली मॅडम यांच्याही कार्याचा कौतुक करत असताना पाली भाषा ही जागतिक भाषा आणि जागतिक स्तरावरती नेण्याकरता या देशातून विशेष प्रयत्न होत आहेत याच्या विषयीचं कौतुक व्यक्त करत असतानाच आजच्या या साहित्य संमेलनाला आपण आम्हाला निमंत्रित केलं याविषयीचं विशेष कौतुक राहुलजी डंबळे त्यांनी आपल्या शब्दशैलीमध्ये या ठिकाणी केलं. पाठोपाठ अध्यक्षही मनोगत या ठिकाणी व्यक्त करण्याकरता मी डॉक्टर उज्ज्वल कुमारजी यांना या ठिकाणी निमंत्रित करतो.